Manchester United are expected to make Wolves forward Matheus Cunha their first major signing of the summer, the first part of the rebuild under Ruben Amorim. And some transfers just make sense. Some transfers just feel right, that it's destined to work out. Because the more you look at it, the more you convince yourself, it makes complete sense from the player, but also the club buying them as well. And this is one of those transfers I would file under. Just makes sense. It's almost the perfect transfer for Man United to kick off this summer with, in my opinion. Because not only are they buying a top player, they're buying a top player but can do it in the Premier League. Often managers will bring in players that have worked under them elsewhere. Man United are the prime example of that with Ten Hag, bringing in players like Anthony that worked at Ajax in a different league but couldn't work in the Premier League. He's gone to Real Betis and he's smashed it. A completely different league altogether. Sometimes the right player and the best answer is right on your doorstep. And sometimes you've just got to pay that extra and get a player that is Premier League proven. I think that's what Man United is doing. I think this transfer is perfect for Cunha, for Ruben Amorim, but most importantly for Manchester United. Let's discuss it. But before we do, if you're new to the channel, please do subscribe and also drop a like on the video as well by clicking that thumbs up button. Both things are free, takes a handful of seconds and helps the video and channel out a lot. If we could get 200 likes on this video, I would be pretty happy. There's a few reasons as to why I like this transfer. So let's start with the obvious one, which is taking a look at how and where Cunha currently plays at Wolves. They had the 3-4-3 formation with a box midfield and the two number 10s, and Cunha currently occupies that left-sided number 10 role. Now, when Pereira rocked up at Wolves, he said, I'm not going to change the formation. They were already playing 3-4-3 under Gary O'Neill. He said, I'm just going to amend it, I'm going to tweak it, because the players they've got, the profile players they've got, best suit that formation, or rather, the formation they're currently playing gets the best out of those players. And I don't think he's necessarily wrong. And it's a complete opposite to what Ruben Amorim has done when he rocked up at Man United, because he has played the same formation. He's gone with the 3-4-3 with the box midfield, two number 10s, exactly how his Sporting side played. Now, the styles are different from Pereira to Ruben Amorim, but the difference between the two managers is Pereira said, this is the best formation for this group of players, we're going to play it. Ruben Amorim has gone to Old Trafford and said, well, this is the formation I play, this is how I like to play football, that's what I'm going to do. Even though the players perhaps don't fit how I want to play, we're going to do that anyway. And then in the summer, we will address that. And that's exactly what he's starting to do here with Matheus Cunha. Now, there's a lot I like about the player himself, and it's not just his goal-scoring ability, which is exceptional, but I like his creativity. Now, let's take a look at some of Cunha's stats, and we're going to start with his passing statistics. And the one I've highlighted here is his through balls, because this is one of the things that I like about the player. As you can see, his statistics when it comes to passing and on the ball is very good when compared to other attacking midfielders and wingers in the Premier League this season. In the 87th percentile for through balls. Now, he's in better percentiles for other pass types such as switches there, as you can see, in the 96th percentile. And that's something we see under Ruben Amorim at Man United currently, where they will overload one side of the pitch and then they will use that long diagonal over to usually the wing back on the opposite side. So whether it's Mazraoui, Ahmad, Dorgu, and that's why I think Ruben Amorim is keen and will be keen to get wingers into the wing back roles. We've seen it with Diallo, and only really Diallo. He hasn't tried Garnacho in that wing back role, and I understand why. I wouldn't do that either. But he's got in Dorgu, who he also feels is best suited to that role. But on the right, we've seen Dalot a lot, we've seen Mazraoui a lot. But you do get the feeling he wants to have Ahmad out there. And the reason that this is important is, of course, Cunha will be playing on the left. So if he was to switch to play, Ahmad will likely be the main beneficiary. So that pass could become a very common one that you see at Old Trafford next season when Cunha tries to find Amad Diallo out on that right-hand side, usually one-on-one up against the defender because of that overload down the left-hand side. And Dorgu is certainly good enough to link up with Cunha down there too. Now, I've got a few examples of some of his through ball passing. This is an assist he got against Leicester City. Look at that, and appreciates against Leicester City. But you've got the run there from Strand Larsen right down the throat of the pitch. But Cunha picks him out perfectly. Straight diagonal ball on the deck, through ball, gives it to Larsen. He goes on and scores. But you can see it there right through the middle of 5 Leicester City players. The next example I've got here is, again, another through ball, but slightly different type of one. Completely different area of the pitch. Close proximity to players. His teammate, I'm not quite sure who it is that's making the run there. He's got to get this right. He waits a second longer. He's offside, because you can see there that 2 Southampton players have stopped. The other one's starting to slow down. But because Cunha's pass is just timed perfection, it's weighted to perfection, he puts his teammate in one-on-one. And that's in less than 2 minutes into the game. In regards to the Leicester City game, there was another assist in that game, a completely different type of assist. He got the ball, he's one-on-one with the Leicester defender, and there's a huge area of space next to him. He waited. He had to buy time. He did a couple of step overs. He held onto the ball, let his teammate get up with him, and just played a lovely ball into his pass. Bang! 2-0 Wolves, thanks to another assist from Cunha. But here's another example, this time against Bournemouth. He's in the middle of the pitch. His teammates on the far side, I think it's Semedo, making a run on this occasion. But that pass that he makes in this clip, which I can't show you due to copyright, it's fantastic. His vision is second to none. But not only that, he's got that, I say audacity, arrogance, whatever you need to keep on trying these through balls. He's got it. And I remember a quote from Marcus Rashford regarding Bruno Fernandes. And basically Bruno had said to Marcus, don't worry about the 9 I get wrong. You worry about the 1 I get right. I love that mentality from Fernandes. And Cunha's got a bit of that. He'll keep on trying the through balls. They don't always work. They do not always work. But he's got that creative aspect to him. Now, what we're going to do now is take a look at Manchester United. Now, this is take-ons attempted in the Premier League so far this season. Now, there's only 1 game to go, so this data is reliable. Man U are 4th bottom, 17th in the league for attempted take-ons. Now, their successful take-ons, they sit 19th per game. Only, 41% of percentage take-ons. So not only are they not attempting much, so you can see that Crystal Palace are attempting a lot less than Man United, but the difference is Crystal Palace have a higher success rate on completing these take-ons compared to Manchester United. It's an area where in the league, compared to other Premier League clubs, they're not that great at it. And as a result, with their total take-ons, Man United sits 2nd bottom. Now, they're quite far off the team in bottom place, which perhaps surprisingly is Crystal Palace, given that they've got Eze and Sarr. But the 2nd bottom, over 100 behind Manchester City. That's not good enough for Manchester United. But this is where you have a look at Matheus Cunha, his successful take-ons. There he is in the 84th percentile in the Premier League. So that's completed. He's 84th percentile for attempted as well. As you can see there, his success rate's 44%, which isn't great. It's okay. It's in 58th percentile. But they're bringing in someone that's not afraid not only to try the through balls, not only to try the creativity with a pass. He's not afraid to try the creativity by taking on his direct opponent. He's happy to travel with the ball. He's happy to try and play his teammate in. He's happy to score. And if we look at Matheus Cunha here with his carries into the final third, this is the statistic I want to talk about. In the 96th percentile, he's picking the ball up and he's driving into that final third of the pitch with the ball at his feet. His progressive carries there in the 69th percentile. You can see his total carrying distance just above the highlighted figure. His progressive carrying distance. These are all good numbers that Matheus Cunha is producing. But what about Man United? Well, we can see they're not actually that bad. Carries into the final third. They're 9th in the Premier League. Just above Southampton and just behind Chelsea. When it comes to carries into the actual box itself, they move up to 8th place. But what I think sometimes statistics don't show, or they do not show, and I think what some people perhaps ignore, maybe I put too much emphasis onto these parts of the game, is the game state itself. And when you take a look at the teams here, so this is the carries into the third again, and you're looking at Man United and 9, it doesn't seem that bad. Below them, you've got Newcastle and you've got Aston Villa. But the significant difference for me is that Aston Villa and Newcastle are winning matches. So naturally, as we get to the closing stages of the game, they are going to start sitting back. Those carries into the final third and into the box, they are going to decrease. Whereas Man United, because they've been losing so often this season, because of the game state, naturally they are going to be going into the final third a bit more often. Teams are going into their low block to try and keep what they've got, whether it's a draw or a win against Man United. And that's why I think sometimes there's no context to those. So statistically, Man U are okay here. But I do think when you look at the teams around them, their results perhaps aren't the best. What it does show, though, is for some teams to take Fulham here, carries into the third. Fulham are sitting fourth in the Premier League. See, that's why Tottenham are third. We know Tottenham like travelling the ball. But again, losing a lot of the time. And here's carries into the box. Look how far down Fulham drop. Now they're below Man United. So they're getting into this third, but they're not getting into the box. In terms of Matheus Cunha, in regards to his his actual shots here, his shot stopping, he's not a goalkeeper. Incredible. Absolute incredible numbers. In the 99th percentile. Can't get better when it comes to goals, when it comes to shots on target. His shots total is also high. But as a result of that, you can see there that 41.4% of his shots hit the target, which is strong in the Premier League. His goals per shot is also strong, 79th percentile. So he's taken a lot of shots. He's very accurate with his shots. And he's very clinical with his shots. Pretty much everything that you want. We'll ignore the shots from free kicks because that's just is what it is. He shoots from free kicks. He takes the free kicks for goals. The average shot distance, which is the red bar, ignore that. It doesn't really mean too much. And to put into context, it's just how many yards away he is. So he's 20 yards away. Eze is 21. De Bruyne is 21. It's the right number for that type of player. In terms of his shot creating, though, Matheus Cunha, it's again really, really strong. So overall, the very top number you want there is 4.46. So in a game, on average, per game, he's creating 4.4 shots by doing something. So what is he doing? And as you can see, the shot creating actions, by taking players on, he's in the 94th percentile. For fouls drawn, 94s, he's getting fouled in and around the box because they're leading to shots, which, as we've discovered, he's taking them himself. Where we drop down there into the goal creating action for take on, 95th percentile. So he's not just taking players on. We've already established the data for Cunha taking players on is strong. But he's not doing it and it's ineffective. He's taking players on and it's leading to shots. He's taking players on and it's leading to goals. This is important. And I think what we can take from all this data regarding Matheus Cunha is, for me, it backs up with what you watch. I do think he's a good dribbler on the ball. I do think he's good at taking players on. I think his passing's good. I think his shooting's good. All those statistics suggest what you see, well, what I see, is correct when it comes to Cunha. I think that is why he's such a good signing for Man United. Because when I've watched Man United this season, they are struggling. They're struggling to break teams down. They're not posing enough threat offensively. Cunha, you get some players who might be strong creatively, might be strong for goal scoring. Cunha's got it all. Only 2 players have scored 5 goals outside the box this season in the Premier League. Matheus Cunha and Bruno Fernandes. So we've established he's clinical. He can score from outside the box. He can create. He can take players on. He draws fouls. Everything you want in an attacking midfielder, Matheus Cunha brings it. And whilst Man United and every other team in the Premier League have had players come to their club that have statistics that say, I can do all these things, the big difference between Cunha and a lot of the others in the league is that Cunha's doing it in the Premier League. He's showing in the Premier League at Wolves right now that he can do it. Now, I do have some reservations around him. The Wolves fans have reservations around his attitude, his commitment to Wolves. There's been a lot of cryptic messages on social media regarding Cunha. I'm not sure you get them at Man United. because I think most of those messages have been around going to a club like Man United. I think it was him just publicly expressing his ambition to move to a bigger club than Wolves. And I think that's what he's getting with this move. In terms of on the pitch, his defensive actions are quite strong in terms of his tackles and his interceptions compared to other wingers and attacking midfielders in the Premier League. It's strong. The data is strong. In fact, if I just go back to his shot creating action and his goal creating action, the very bottom number there, the very, very bottom bar, 93rd percentile, that is for a goal creating action, which is done by a defensive action, interceptions and tackles. So in the final third, he is effective off the ball. But a couple of months ago, an article came out regarding players' running statistics in the Premier League. Matheus Cunha was top for one of them. Number one. The player that walks the most in the Premier League. And that's a luxury he's been afforded at Wolves. He's allowed to not work as hard as the other number 10, whether that be Bellegarde, Saliba. They've usually got to do more defensively than Matheus Cunha. Now, Wolves benefit from that, because then when they win the ball back, and they've got really good ball-playing central midfielders in Gomez and Andre, they've got a fantastic ball carrier in Aït-Nouri who links up really well with Cunha. So when Wolves win the ball back, Cunha's where they want him to be already. He's up there. He's in the offensive part of the pitch. They can get that ball to him, spring the counter-attack. They've got their most creative player, their best goal-scoring player on the ball, running at a defence. That's exactly what you want. But Wolves have to accommodate that. Will Man United accommodate that luxury that Cunha's had, or will they demand he comes back and he does the defensive work? I think it'll be the latter. How much will that impact him? I'd imagine it'll impact him somewhat a little bit. But that progressive carry they've got in Ryan Aït-Nouri, they've kind of got it in Dorgu. Now, I think frustratingly, if I was a Man U fan, because whilst they signed Dorgu, they were heavily linked with Aït-Nouri as well. They would almost bought a partnership and brought it to Old Trafford. So can he link up with Dorgu? That's the big question. If so, even better. And I think that arrives me at my summary of not Ryan Aït-Nouri, not him, of Matheus Cunha. And you take a look at the Man United team, how it could look with him in the team. And this is where it's important for Bruno Fernandes. This is where it's important for Ruben Amorim using Bruno Fernandes. Because I've always felt that his ideal would be to use Fernandes as one of his midfield pairings. Next to Ugarte, probably. In some games, he still does do that. And you'll play two different number 10s, Garnacho, Mount, Ahmad, Xerxes sometimes, Højlund up front, Xerxes in the number 10 role. And it means he can put Fernandes in midfield. But when he does that, he loses something. Man United aren't as effective going forward with Fernandes in midfield because they miss him in that attacking role. Likewise, you put him in number 10, you're missing him in central midfield. I think if Ruben Amorim could copy and paste for Bruno Fernandes, it would be perfect. He's got what he wants in midfield and he's got what he wants in the number 10 role. Obviously, can't do that. So he's got to get someone in that allows him to be flexible. And this gives Ruben Amorim that flexibility. He can play Fernandes next to Cunha if he wants. He can stick with Casemiro and Ugarte in midfield. Or he can drop Fernandes back there, put Cunha in his best position. Then he's only got one number 10 role to fulfill. He'll still have possibly Garnacho, Ahmad, Mount. You still have those options to go in there. You might even have Anthony back. I expect he joins Real Betis. You just don't know. But I do wonder that if long term, if Man United had an important game, this is what you'll see. Dorgu, Fernandes and Cunha in the number 11, a new striker, then Ahmad probably in that number 7 role over on the right wing back. Mazraoui at centre back with Maguire and Lenny Yoro, for example. But a game that he requires to go a bit more defensive. You put Ahmad in the number 10 role. Mazraoui steps out into that right wing back role. You play a different centre back. I think Cunha just unlocks a lot of possibilities for Ruben Amorim. And I think the player that will benefit the most from Cunha coming to Man United will be Bruno Fernandes. I'd imagine their link-up play would be somewhat very exciting, but most importantly, very, very effective. Some transfers just make sense. I think Cunha to Man United, 62.5 million is a lot of money. Of course it is. But I always think if you're getting the perfect player, because he's going to fit your system, he's going to play you the way you want, and he's almost guaranteed success. He's not, of course. But if this transfer does not work, then I think that's a bigger reflection on Ruben Amorim than it is on Man United or Matheus Cunha. Because it should work. But if you're buying the perfect player, is there such a thing as too much money? Because now go back to when Liverpool signed Sadio Mane. People said, way too expensive. But was it? It was the perfect player for Jurgen Klopp. Every transfer has a risk. It's up to the scouts to reduce that risk as much as possible. I think Matheus Cunha going to Old Trafford has very, very little risk. I think this transfer will be a huge success for Man U, for Cunha, and for Bruno Fernandes.